What's crack like? It's your boy Broshmo, just in case you did not know. So this is day 3 of my 2020 NFL mock draft, 7 rounds, really just to get more familiar with prospects, their names. Day 3, that's 4 rounds, so my voice is starting to go and we're gonna have to fly by this because I don't want this video to be extremely long. So if you're curious about any of these prospects, go ahead and research it yourself. I highly suggest that. I've done a ton of research over the last few weeks, so done. But if you enjoy the content, go ahead, give it a thumbs up and become a bro and subscribe. I'm constantly pushing out content and we got a great community over here at the Broshmo channel. I love talking with you guys, so yeah, come join the conversation. But let's go ahead, let's start the 4th round. It's the Texans pick. They're picking Zack Baun out of Wisconsin, linebacker. This is a guy I think that'll probably transition. Like, he's an edge rusher currently. I think he doesn't have the strength nor the size to stay there on the edge, but he provides a lot of versatility. The Texans will like that. And next pick we got is, asterisk. This is the Redskins. They get Darnay Holmes out of UCLA, cornerback. It looks like Darnay Holmes is going to stay around for another year. He's actually in the transfer portal. He's already graduated, so he's allowed to immediately play wherever he goes next year. He has had some struggles, but there's no line. Like, this guy is incredibly quick. He's fast. There's a lot to work with. I like this guy as a man corner, but again, he's coming back for another year. But hey, good pick for the Redskins anyway. And Cincinnati, they get Colin Johnson, wide receiver. Yeah, I said they were going to start addressing defense in my last video, but they go offense here. They need another receiver with AJ Green's whole situation in limbo. Colin Johnson, I like him as a big slot, but he's got the size. I don't think he has the separation to play on the outside, but quality pick here in the 4th round. Alex Highsmith for the Charlotte Miners, 49ers, or maybe just Miners, but Buccaneers, they get an edge. They need an edge. They haven't really got anything as far as pass rush. I know they got Shaq Barnett, but he's kind of how can I say this? He's kind of he's gassed at this point. So last few weeks we have not seen any pass rush from the Bucs. And this is the Giants pick. They go Kenneth Murray, linebacker out of Oklahoma. A lot of people are really high on Murray. I don't see it. Not for a first, like, people are putting him in the 1st round. I don't see him as a 1st round talent. But here we are. We got Murray. He's super athletic, super speedy, sideline to sideline player. So quality pick here in the 4th. And then, hey, we got the Steelers. They finally get a 2nd pick. They get KJ Hill, wide receiver out of Ohio State. Solid pick, man. It's a solid pick for the Steelers. I think they can use a guy that can solely function in the slot. I think Hill is solely a slot receiver because I know that they kind of use JuJu in the slot, but I think they want him more on the outside. Deontay Johnson looks like he'll be an outside receiver as well. And then they got another pick. They get their quarterback, KJ Costello, a guy that I was really high on and then super disappointed in as the season progressed. He's just forced a lot of passes, forced a lot of throws into windows that didn't even exist. He was throwing the ball essentially at a wall, but he's got the size, he's got the arm strength, so they get a guy that they could maybe develop behind Big Ben. That's not Mason Rudolph. And then Shane Lemieux out of Oregon, man. Cardinals addressing that offensive line interior. This guy, he should be a day 2 pick. I don't know how he fell in this draft, but that's the thing about the draft, man. Guys fall, but that's what teams do. They jump on that opportunity to take those fallen players, and they get a good one here. And the Falcons on the clock. They get a guy that I think is also a day 2 talent, Marco Wilson, cornerback out of Florida. He is a very sticky corner. Very physical, very aggressive. He does get a lot of penalties thrown on him, but you can't deny the skill that is there. And then the Jags back on the clock. They get Tamorrion Terry, wide receiver out of Florida. A guy that I wasn't typically high on, but he's, as the season went, he's shown, I think in this very studded, very loaded receiving class, I think he is definitely a good day 3 pick. I currently have him as a 5th rounder, but I think he's a good fit for the Jags. And then Denver, they get Nick Coe, a guy a lot of people want to mock in the 1st round or the 2nd. I don't see it. I think it's a lot of raw potential talent. So they get a guy they can develop there on the defensive interior. And then the Chargers, they get Hubba Bubba Hubbard out of Oklahoma State, man. This guy has been phenomenal. My only question with him is, hey, what happened to all those receptions he had the year before? But we know he can be a pass catcher, but we don't really know what the future holds for Melvin Gordon. So they get essentially his replacement there to match up with Eckler. And Buffalo, they go ahead and they get a cornerback, Chase Lucas out of Arizona State. I don't know why not a lot of teams are high on Lucas. I am. Not a lot of analysts are. I love Lucas. I think he is a phenomenal all-around talent, good talent. Good pick by Buffalo. Carolina, they get some depth at linebacker, Monty Rice out of Georgia. Good pick for the Panthers. He can cover a lot of ground. And we got the Oakland Raiders. They get Troy Pride Jr. out of Notre Dame. They address the cornerback position, get a little depth there in the secondary. And then Minnesota, they get a quarterback finally, Charlie Brewer out of Baylor. He's had a kind of not a rough year, but he's played pretty decent to be a day 3 type of quarterback. So they get a guy who, hey, I think this kind of takes kind of the heat off of what they'll get from analysts, from fans about Kirk Cousins. Like, oh, well, we got this guy in the wings, just waiting, haha, hee hee. Now we got Dallas. They get Nazir Player, what a last name, out of East Tennessee State. This guy is definitely he's going to be a developmental edge rusher, but they do need to address the edge there in Dallas. He's got a huge upside, and he's one of those Division 2 guys I was kind of looking into. There's going to be more Division 2 guys that are probably draft worthy as the season goes, when the Senior Bowl and the Combine come around. But I think I only have like 7 or 8 in this draft that really caught my eye. And then Detroit, they finally address offensive tackle, which tackle has been kind of rough this year for the Lions. They get Ezra Cleveland out of Boise State. He has been a solid presence there for Boise. And then I had to go corner again for the Rams. Not because they need it, because they went corner the pick before, but Eric Stokes is such a perfect fit for Wade Phillips' scheme. I just had to do it. And you know what? It's the 4th round. I know they need to address the offensive line a little bit more, but I just couldn't stop myself. I didn't want him to go anywhere else. And then we got Darrell Williams, Mississippi State offensive interior. He's the center there. Mississippi State going to the Jets. They need help on the offensive line all over the place. They get a guy that can help them there. And then the Colts, they go linebacker Errol Thompson out of Mississippi State, a guy that I was really high on, but he hasn't really played. He hasn't played bad, but he hasn't played up to my expectations this year, but the talent's there nonetheless. And then San Francisco, they go with a receiver, Sage Surratt out of Wake Forest. I love this kid. I think this kid will probably stick around for a year, but San Fran, they do need to add some playmakers there at receiver. Deebo Samuel was good. Dante Pettis, man, it's been a roller coaster ride with him, so I don't know. And who knows what the future holds for Goodwin. So just add some guys that can come in there and compete for snaps, you know. The Browns, they go Alaric Jackson, man, out of Iowa. This may seem pretty low, but he hasn't been that great. He was kind of beat up at the beginning of the year, and then he came back. His first game back was pretty bad. The footwork looks not great, but that's something that, that's something with some good coaching they can adjust. At this point, I think he's only a right tackle in the NFL, but you pair him up, you got Cosme, you got Jackson on the other side. That's a good looking offensive line there at Cleveland. Now, let's talk about the Patriots. They got another pick, Courtney Davis out of Texas A&M. He has been the lifeblood for Kellen Mond there at Texas A&M, and I think this is a guy that truly can play on the outside. That's really what the Patriots need. They need guys that could eventually replace Philip Dorsett or Josh Gordon, so they get Courtney Davis here. Browns back on the clock. Albert Okwuegbunam, tight end out of Missouri. Now, this might seem a little low for Okwuegbunam, Alberto, but yeah, it's not. Tight end class, it's not that great. It's got a bunch of undersized guys. Okwuegbunam, he's not undersized, but he doesn't really bring a lot to the table as a playmaker. He's a really good red zone threat, but no shame in the 4th round. Let's talk about Najee Harris going to the Eagles because, listen, they were trying to get Melvin Gordon after they already got in Jordan Howard. So I don't think it's out of the realm of disbelief to think that they will address running back again. I mean, Jordan Howard, they have to re-sign him after this year. His contract's up. So just get a guy that's a better version of Jordan Howard. Najee Harris shown he can catch the pass. I like it. And the Packers, they address the linebacker position with Kaliki Hudson out of Michigan. This guy, I think he currently plays safety. But he's not going to be able to do that at the NFL level. I think he's more of a linebacker. So they get a guy that comes in there and can pair well with Blake Martinez. Baltimore Ravens, they get Antoine Brooks out of Maryland, a safety. I like this guy. This is another guy that could potentially be better at linebacker, but I think he reminds me a lot of Tony Jefferson, who just went down for Baltimore. So I think is a good fit for Baltimore. Is definitely a Baltimore. He's a Raven type of player. And then running back. Chiefs, yes, they get a running back because running back situation has been weird for Kansas City. Keyshawn Vaughn for Vanderbilt, he's been phenomenal. He forces tacklers to miss. I love him, and then it's really a steal at this point in the draft. And then we got Saints back on the clock. They get a tackle. They get Colton. Let's just call him Colton Mack. But yeah, man. This guy, he's been very, very impressive. He's a little raw, but very impressive there at West Virginia. And you know what? Armstead, he gets hurt so often. It's not bad to get someone that could eventually, replace him or fill in, And let's talk about the Seattle Seahawks. They get James Lynch out of Baylor, a guy I'm really high on. He'll play on the defensive interior. He's got the size of a defensive tackle, but he plays with the ferociousness of an edge player, and that's where he plays edge right now at Baylor. So you get a guy with a good skill set for what Seahawks like to bring. And then Patriots back on the clock. I think they get a developmental tackle here in Alex Taylor out of South Carolina State. And then we got Baltimore back on the clock. Rashard Lawrence, an excellent pick. They need to address the defensive interior because the defensive line's kind of been a letdown. They've been kind of getting bullied, so they add a little talent there. And Eagles back on the clock. They go safety finally. Alohi Gilman out of I almost said Navy. He was a transfer from Navy, but he plays at Notre Dame. But this guy, I think he's solely a box safety. Reminds me of Malcolm Jenkins a little bit, so I think he's a good heir apparent for Jenkins. Then I got the Redskins taking a running back, Kylan Hill out of Mississippi State. With guys going down, man, the injury history is real scary. AP's not the future, and then you also got Bryce Love, who's another guy who's hurt. So they really need to do something about running back. So Kylan Hill falling this far too, because I think this guy is a day three as a third round prospect. There's a bevy of running backs I really love in this draft, though. And then Justin Jefferson for LSU going to the Seahawks. I think he's really only a slot in the NFL, but this allows Tyler Lockett to play more on the outside, and I'd really like to see that. So that's why I pick Justin Jefferson here. And we got Baltimore back on the clock, and they, like I said it earlier, that or in my day 2 video, that they were going to address the interior because they really need to get younger on the defensive interior. And they get Lloyd Cushenberry III out of LSU. And with the next pick, we got the Dolphins getting Eno Benjamin running back at ASU, Arizona State. They get a guy that I think is better than Kalen Ballage. Kalen Ballage was out of Arizona State as well, if you didn't know. But Benjamin, he hasn't really had a great year this year, but he is phenomenal. He's really good at breaking tackles. He's a bit of a bruiser, but he doesn't really have the size of a bruiser. But they need to bring in some guys there at running back, especially if Kenyon Drake is about to get traded. And we're going to start the 5th round with the Cardinals picking Patrick Johnson, edge rusher at Tulane. Quite frankly, they need to get younger at pass rusher. And next pick I got is, Redskins. They get in, oh man, what a name. But Nasirildeen, ooh, man. But this guy, I think he actually, when I was watching him, I really should have learned how to say his name before I got on the clock. But there's a lot of names out there, so beg my pardon. I'm sorry. I think he might be more of a dime nickel type of linebacker, but he does give you a little bit of safety. Not much, because I think he would be kind of like Landon Collins. You won't be able to play him deep, but I like the pick here in the 5th round. And I know I have the Redskins at 1-14. They should be 1-15, but hey, you're lucky. I gave you one less loss. Let's talk about the next pick, man. David Woodward out of Utah State. It's a guy I love. He doesn't really have great size, but and he's got great instincts. He's super athletic. Bengals, they really need to address linebacker. I know they did last year, but it's just not working there in the middle. And then the Giants back on the clock, and they got Charles Snowden, linebacker out of Virginia. I think this guy will actually stay for his senior year. And I know I got the picture on, still Kenneth Murray. Sorry, mistakes will be made when you do 250 some of these. But yeah, I think he'll stay for his senior year because he's kind of in a wonky position. They use him in coverage, they use him as an edge. He's got great size, 6'7", but I don't really know his position. He doesn't really offer much in the pass rush department for me. So is he an off-the-ball linebacker? I want to see more. I want to see more of a defined role. But good pick here in the 5th. Yeah, and tight ends, they're going tight end, man. They're getting Josh Peterson out of Louisiana Monroe. Ooh, Louisiana Monroe. I like that. But this guy, he has been stellar. If you take a look at my scouting report series, he's been phenomenal there. He's been a first down machine, and honestly, I don't think was it just the guy behind Delaney, Juno Smith. I don't think he's the guy. He's not the heir apparent. He is not the next to take the throne. Dolphins back on the clock. They doubled down at receiver, kind of, sort of. I mean, it's been 143 picks since they last took a receiver. But Isaiah Hoggins, I love this guy out of Oregon State. I don't think he's the smoothest of, he doesn't have a ton of routes, and he's not the smoothest of athletes, but the guy gets separation. He's good at the contested catch. He's been phenomenal in college, and here in the 5th round, it's not a bad pick. And then with the 50th pick, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers get Mekhi Becton out of Louisville. A guy, he's very raw, but man, huge upside. Now, Arizona, they do forfeit their 5th rounder here, and it'll be the 151st pick because they selected Jalen Thompson out of Washington State in supplemental draft. So we go straight to the 152nd pick. Jaguars, they get a safety, Reggie Floyd. I love this guy. This guy, a lot of people don't know about him. He's really flying under the radar. But I think he'll come in and help that safety position tremendously because, man, it has not been great for the Jags. And we got Falcons back on the clock, and they get another guy. I love all these guys, let's be honest. But Michael Pinckney, linebacker out of Miami. He's probably the best coverage linebacker in college football. And you know what? The Falcons, they eat that up. They love their coverage linebackers. Deion Lewis coming out of college, a lot of people questioned his ability to be a run stuffer, but he plays the pass so nice. And I mean, he's come into his own as a run defender. and Pinckney, I think, is a solid pick here. They need to get better in coverage. Then the Chargers, they get Tommy Kramer, a guy a lot of people are high on out of Notre Dame. I've seen people mock him in the first or second round. I don't think he's necessarily. I don't think he has that upside. I really don't. I think what we see is what we're gonna get. He's kind of not plateaued, but kind of plateaued. But I mean, let's be honest. Chargers, they need talent, especially in the interior. So Kramer, a solid pick. Now we got Kalen Mond going to Denver. I really wanted to mock a quarterback to Denver in the first round, mainly because I think Justin Herbert, how can Elway resist? But they get a guy with a pretty good arm here. Not very accurate, but they get Mond, who has been kind of a roller coaster there at Texas A&M. Panthers, they go Richie Grant out of UCF, baby, the Golden Knights. This guy, he's a playmaker there in the back end for the Golden Knights, and the Panthers, they really need that disruptor, that center fielder. Then we got the Bears. They get their third pick here on the 5th. JuJu Hughes, Fresno State safety. I think this guy will actually be a slot in the NFL, and really, man, the Bears are hurting there in their slot corner, man, after Callahan or Calhoun? I think it was Callahan, but left via free agency, so they get a guy to actually truly replace him there. And then Buffalo, they're back on the clock. They get a running back because Frank Gore can't play forever, and Singletary, I mean, get some depth behind him. James Robinson, another one of those Division II guys I really, really like. He's probably the best running back in Division II there at Illinois State. And then Cowboys, they get Seneca Espinoza Jr. What a name. I love that name. Out of Liberty. This guy, he flies all over the field. And, I mean, they really need to... Dallas, I think they could definitely upgrade the safety position. Minnesota, they go cornerback TJ Carter out of Memphis. This is another physical corner that gets called for a lot of penalties, but you can't deny the talent's there. I love I love how competitive he is, and the corner position definitely needs upgraded in Minnesota. They really get bailed out by two excellent safeties there in Minnesota. And then the Detroit Lions, man, they're going linebacker Jordan Brooks, a very underrated talent there at Texas Tech. He's a great tackler. He's pretty good in coverage. I think it would be a very welcome addition to that defense. And then the Jets, they're going kicker. Yes, I am including kickers and punters. Don't worry, I only have 4 of them in my mock draft. And this is actually typically where you'll see the first kicker go. Actually, probably a round earlier. But yeah, I got Rodrigo Blankenship out of Georgia. He is the best kicker in college football. I know he had that terrible miss against South Carolina, cost him the game, but it doesn't take away from a career. And then I got Reggie Corbin from Illinois going to the Jaguars. They need depth behind Fournette. It can't just be all Fournette. Corbin, I like his ability to... He's got great speed, and I think he could develop into a very good pass catcher. That way, Leonard Fournette's not their only pass catching running back. And then the Colts, man, they're going Jamie Newman, a guy that reminds me a ton of Jacoby Brissett, except for this guy has great deep ball accuracy. I fully expect this guy to actually stay for a year, and he could probably improve that his draft grade immensely. But I have him eligible, and he is eligible, so I have him going here. San Fran, they're going guard, getting a little help on the offensive line, because they... Strangely enough, this year, they have been very beat up, very hurt. So Solomon Kindley, a very, very good offensive lineman there at Georgia. He had high expectations this year. A lot of people were very high on him. I don't think he's totally met him, but it's not like he's playing bad. And then Texans, they're going Joey Blunt. I love this guy out of Virginia. This guy reminds me a lot of Adams for the Jets. My goodness, this guy, he does it all. His size scares me a little bit, but they get a quality player there to truly replace Tyree Matthew. And then we're going wide receiver for the Bears, Josh Pearson out of Jacksonville State. This guy's got size, he's got speed, he is going to be phenomenal. He's going to light the world on fire, I think, at the Senior Bowl. I might be overhyping him a little bit, though. I have him here going in the 5th. So let's talk about Michael Divinity Jr. going to the Cleveland Browns. And for me, this is another good team fit, good scheme fit. He reminds me a lot of Joe Schubert there at Cleveland, as he's used on the edge, but he's a phenomenal in coverage, and he's actually still a pretty good edge rusher at that. Last season he ranked in the top 10 as far as he was the top 10, one of the top 10 pass rushers, as well as a top 10 in coverage among linebackers / edge rushers. So he's got a phenomenal skill set, and I think it's a good fit here for the Browns. Back on the board with the Bears, we're going Jacob Breland. Oh man, yeah. Let's talk about Breland real quick. It really sucks he went down with that injury. He's phenomenal. I think he should go a little higher, but the injury does bring you down a little bit. But the Bears, they need a playmaker at tight end. They need a playmaker in general. They get it here. Now we got the Packers. They go quarterback. They're going to finally develop someone behind Aaron Rodgers. Shea Patterson out of Michigan. This is a guy that he hasn't really produced much, but he's going to be a great interview there at the Combine, and he does have a bit of arm talent. He was once regarded as a first-round talent. That is no more. And then the Rams select Osa Ozigidua. Man, what a name. How do I get that right? But I get Nasirildeen's name wrong, man. Disrespectful. That's what it is. But they get a very versatile guy here in Osa. He is he could play really along anywhere on the defensive line, outside of the anything inside of the tackle. But this guy, he might stay for another year. I think there is a lot of areas he can grow at, but this guy could be an up and comer on the board. And then we got the Chiefs. They finally go corner. Lamar Jackson, not the one you're thinking of. This guy plays for Nebraska. He's played very well there for Nebraska in a kind of a down year, really, for Nebraska football. And then the Saints, they get a true slot corner in Shaun Wade out of Ohio State. I don't say a true one, because PJ Williams has been pretty bad. And then they got Patrick Robinson back there, I think, and he hasn't been any better. So this would be a good upgrade. And then I love this pick for the Seahawks. Trey Sermon, this guy he reminds me so much of Marshawn Lynch. He's a very physical runner, and you know what? Chris Carson's got a contract coming up, so is Rashad Penny going to be the guy after that? I know that it doesn't hurt getting depth at this stage of the draft. And then I got the Eagles getting a guy that I've mocked quite a bit in the first round to the Eagles, Jack Anderson. I guess the hype has worn off. I still think he's a great, super athletic player, and he'd be a good fit along the Eagles' offensive line. And then the Eagles got another pick, Chaz Surratt, the brother of Sage, out of North Carolina. This guy, he's a former quarterback, now playing linebacker. This guy, he is disgusting in coverage, and that's what the Eagles need, a coverage linebacker after Jared Hicks kind of jumped ship. And then the Broncos, they continue to address the offensive line. They get Ben Cleveland out of Georgia. I don't know why I got Texas A&M back there. I don't know, but yeah, no, this guy, he's been very solid. That's a very, very good offensive line there at Georgia. Then Dallas, they go Yazir Durant out of Missouri. Another guy that's very, I don't want to say overhyped. I know the NFL is pretty high on him, but hey, good pick here by Dallas. I currently have Durant as a 5th rounder, and that's where he falls. So, and then Jordan Fuller going to Miami. Good pick. This is a guy, he reminds me so much of Rashad Jones. And bam, you got your replacement for him. And then Aaron Fuller going to Denver. Denver, they get a true slot. I don't think they have a true slot on the team outside of Emmanuel Sanders, but he's gone after this year. Fuller, very spectacular at the catch. He has a few drops that kind of scare me, but that's why he's here at day 3. Then Dane Jackson going to Cincinnati. They address corner because they need to address everywhere on that defense, and they get a good one here in Dane Jackson. I could see his stock going up. And then Tennessee Titans, they're picking Travis Brophy out of Texas Tech. I was talking about how good that Georgia offensive line is. This is a very underrated Texas Tech offensive line. And then with the 183rd pick, the Steelers, they're going to go with edge rusher Darrell Taylor. Bud Dupree's been hot and cold, and I don't know what to think about our boy Bud, but Darrell Taylor, I think he's a good developmental tackle here at this point, at this stage. There's a lot of like about him. And then we got, man, I got a kicker going to the Bucks. Man, they could upgrade that kicker. Jed Toner has been very solid for Stanford. And I don't know much more you can say about that. Let's talk about the Giants getting DK Dobbins. I know a lot of people are like, what? Man, how's he going this late? Because, running backs, they're not as valued as they once were, in the NFL. But yeah, 6th round steal. This guy, he could be a quality contributor right there behind Saquon Barkley and Wayne Gallman. And then the Browns are going receiver. They're getting my boy out of San Jose State, Trey Walker. He's a bit raw, but he's very good at the catch point. He is plagued by a few drops, but I mean, it was kind of the same thing I said in my day 2 video about Tyler Johnson. They kind of all appear in one game or 2 games, so it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of wonky, but this is a guy you could definitely develop. And then Sean Vaughns, I love this pick for Atlanta. This guy, he reminds me of Mohamed Sanu, and I think he comes in and he takes Sanu's job. This guy is phenomenal, playing for a very, very good receiving core there at USC. And then, hey, I got the Jags going back to back. They just got Reggie Corbin, and they're getting JJ Taylor out of Arizona. Because I said Corbin, he could be groomed into a pass catcher. I think Taylor has it already. He has it now. He was plagued by a very inaccurate quarterback there in Khalil Tate. So I love JJ Taylor at this pick. And then, hey, Patriots are going with a receiver that I think actually translates better as a tight end, Chase Claypool for Notre Dame. Let's go to the Chargers, and we got a punter. Our first punter is off the board, Drew Chrisman. The Chargers, they need a punter. All right, let's talk about the Oakland Raiders. James Smith-Williams out of NC State. A lot to like about the guy, and the Raiders, they need to get better as a pass rushing team. Honestly, they haven't really seen much from their young players there, at least yet. So there's no harm in investing in someone at this stage of the draft. Buffalo Bills, Jake Hansen, offensive interior. I think he'll play guard. He plays center currently, but translates better as a guard, I believe. The guy could get a little handsy. He does get flagged a lot, but a good guy to help improve that interior for Buffalo. And then Jonathan Garvin, I don't think he's going to be coming out this year, but he is draft eligible, and he's been a solid player there for Miami. I think he does need to add a little weight, but hey, Panthers, they just add to the pass rush. And then Shaq Quarterman, linebacker out of the U. I like this guy. He is very athletic. I don't think he's athletic. I don't think he's good as an edge rusher. I don't think he's good enough to play edge rusher. He doesn't have the size. I think they could kind of do what they've done with Anthony Barr when he came out of UCLA, and I think it's just a good fit. He reminds me a little bit of Barr. And then the Miami Dolphins getting Adam Trotman, man, out of Dayton, dude, getting a tight end. Let's be honest, man, Mike Gesicki. I'm sicky of Gesicki. And then that was dumb. And then the Detroit Lions, they're gonna get Tariq Black, a guy that he's been a bit banged up throughout his career, but the talent is there. The injuries push him down the draft board. This is a guy that it reminds me a lot of Marvin Jones there at Detroit, so that could be a future replacement for Jones. And then I love this pick for the Rams. Brandon Ayuk, man, he's been stellar for Arizona State, and I say these guys that remind me of players that are already on the team that they could eventually replace. This guy reminds me a little bit of Robert Woods, and I think he could be a future replacement for said Robert Woods. And then the Jets, they go running back, get Le'Veon some help, get someone behind him. Cam Akers, he's a little bouncy in the backfield, but he's not playing with a great offensive line there at Florida State, but solid pick here. And then the Colts select Kyle Duggar out of Lenoir Rhine. What a name. What a college. But this guy, I like him as a box. So I think he comes in there, and I don't necessarily think he'll be a starter in the league, but he could be a good contributor. And then San Fran, they get Akeem Davis Gaither out of Appalachian State, baby. I was from the Appalachians. Not really. I was more on the beach side. But yeah, no, this is a good pick. This is a guy, he's a little small to be an edge rusher. He does have a lot of good pass rush moves, though. And you know what? It adds a little depth to a very good linebacker core in San Fran. And then Marcus Bailey out of Purdue, another really, really quality linebacker there. You're just adding a guy who probably he can be definitely in a 3-4 scheme. I think he'd be a good coverage linebacker. And then Sam Ehlinger, man, going to the Bears. They get maybe a replacement for Mitch Trubisky. Maybe. I have Sam down here because I know people love Ehlinger, but man, he's got the size where like same size whereas people had with Baker Mayfield. He doesn't have the arm, he doesn't have the vision, he doesn't have the pocket presence. Ehlinger, he's a good college quarterback. Reminds me a little bit of Colt McCoy. And then the Browns, they get Greg McCray out of Central Florida. They get basically if Kendall or Kareem Hunt, he doesn't re-sign, this is a guy that could get to be a pass catcher to help complement Chubbs. And then Julian Blackmon out of Utah going to the Eagles. Quality pick here. This is a guy, he couldn't really make it at corner at college, so they moved him to safety, and he's a playmaker there at the back end just as a center fielder. So you kind of got a good potential safety duo for the future there for the Eagles. And then Coney Durr, a guy I'm very high on out of Minnesota, going to the Packers. They're just getting some more depth there at the cornerback position. And then Baltimore gets a guy, KJ Hamler. I don't think he's coming out this year, but again, you're draft eligible, so this is a guy I think would be a good replacement for Willie Snead. I think this guy just screams slot corner only, though. And then the Jets, they get Damon Arnett, corner out of Ohio State. Like I said, they need to address outside corners. Henderson and Arnett, that brings a lot of good competition there. And then Saints, they go tight end because Jared Cook, I believe, is only on a 1-year or even 2-year deal. But even then, he's not the future. So get Harrison Bryant, Florida Atlantic tight end. He's super athletic. I really like the things I see from Harrison Bryant here. And then AJ Green out of Oklahoma State going to the Jags. This is a good special teams guy coming in, and that's what more can you ask for this far in the draft? And then Nico Collins out of Minnesota. This is a guy I'm really high on. But I do think when it's all said and done, he is the third worst or third best, however you want to put it, wide receiver at Michigan. And the Cardinals, you know what? I think they just continue to bring in guys because they continue to bring in receivers. I mean, it puzzles me that Andy Isabella hasn't seen the field yet. I mean, Keyshawn Johnson saw it before him. They even brought in Michael Crabtree. So, I mean, obviously they think they need receivers, so I get them one here late. And then Raekwon Williams, another feel-good story out of Michigan State going to the Patriots. I think this guy, he's a phenomenal run blocker. Doesn't offer much as a pass rusher there, the defensive interior. But the Patriots, they take guys and they use them to their strengths, so I love the fit. And then got the Seahawks. They're going to go with a Will Disley, not replacement, a Will Disley backup, a guy that could be like, oh man, if Disley gets hurt again, because this is the second consecutive year. Kobe Parkinson, he's not very athletic. He's super tall. He's a good red zone target. They're out of Stanford. New England Patriots back on the clock. I told you they have a lot of picks. They get another developmental tackle there in William Sherman out of Colorado. I think he's a little more pro ready than Alex Taylor, just not the high upside. And my Dolphins, they're back on the clock and they're picking here in the first pick of the 7th round. Darius Stills out of West Virginia. His brother is a beast there at West Virginia, but man, this guy, he could fly up some draft boards, but I think he does actually have another year of eligibility. Let me go check real quick. Yes, he does have another year of eligibility, so we could see this guy stay, but I really like what I've seen thus far. And then, hey, Redskins, you get in another receiver because you need help at receiver. You really do. Paul Richardson's not going to be there, so get some help, man. This cat out of Mississippi State, man, he's really solid. Like I said, this is a really good, really loaded wide receiver class. And honestly, this guy, he could be a quality future number 2. And the Bengals, they go Mitchell Wilcox, tight end out of Southern Florida, USF. So, man, this guy, ton of upside. Haven't seen it all put together yet. I was kind of hoping he'd realize that potential. Hasn't yet this season. So, that's why you find yourself in the 7th round. But this is a guy that they could possibly develop. And then Jeremy Chinn coming here for the Steelers. This is a quality safety. This is a guy that he is a true center fielder. He could be a good replacement for Sean Davis, which poor Sean Davis. They've butchered that guy's career. They've asked him, hey, be a corner, be a safety. Be a corner again, be a safety. Like, man, have the man just learn one position. Like, it's messed up. But hey, you get Chinn here. And then Tyler Johnson going to the Eagles. This is a guy, I love this guy's arm. He has an NFL arm. He's not all put away. It's not everything's put together yet. He is a redshirt sophomore, and so he could he could ideally come back for another year. But the Eagles get a guy that they could develop to be a future backup. And then the Giants, they go my boy Jennings out of Tennessee here. This guy, he breaks tackles like no other. That's not named Laviska Shenault Jr. He is great. He's not even the guy that we thought was going to emerge from Tennessee. And boy, he really has. This is a good late round pick for the Giants. And then another good late round pick here for the Titans, going with the defensive tackle here out of USC. He's been a stud. This is another guy I expect to stay though. And then Kindle Vildor. Oh man, how I overhyped you, man. Going to the Cardinals, I think he does require some development. I loved how he played the year before in 2018 against Clemson. All that dreams didn't come to fruition though. Here he is in the 7th round. He's still a quality player though. Jaguars, Patty Fisher. I need to go on a rant real quick. So a lot of people won't like Patty Fisher going this low. See, this is the problem with projecting linebackers, because you never really know what a team is absolutely looking for. Like last year, teams wanted athletic linebackers. I had a guy, Tavon Connie, coming out of Notre Dame. I had him as a 3rd round grade, and he went undrafted because teams didn't think he was athletic enough. I was like, the guy's a footballer, man. For me, he is athletic enough for me. So a lot of these guys that they're really good at college, but they are kind of protected by their system, that they aren't that athletic. They're probably borderline for what the NFL requires. They fall there. I have them falling down boards. You won't see Evan Weaver from California getting drafted. You won't see Nate Landman from Colorado getting drafted, though he's probably coming back for his senior year. So Patty Fisher, honestly, I think he, among all the not as athletic linebackers, he's probably the best. And it's not to put him down. He is a great football player, but he is limited by his athleticism. That's just the truth. Then I got the Patriots going Mike Dana, another guy I overhyped. I thought he was a transfer from Central Michigan, and I came in thinking this guy was going to ball out here at Michigan, but he hasn't really produced much of a pass rush moveset. He's really just a bull rush. And I mean, I don't think he'd be strong enough to bull rush every tackle at the NFL level, so that's why I have him here in the 7th. But like I said, Patriots, they use players to their strengths. Kendrick Rogers, he's been a big disappointment for the Aggies, but he has all the upside in the world. He's also been injured a bit, so good pick for the Chargers here, a guy that they could probably develop. And then we go to Zadarius Hutcherson out of South Carolina. Again, Washington, they just continue to address the offensive line. They get 2 guys now there that could be future starters. Then the Browns, they address the interior too. Ben Breedson, a guy a lot of people are pretty high on. I don't think he has really good footwork. I think that brings him down, but here he is. Good pick for the good value pick for the Browns. And then the Panthers, they go Brian. Why can't I say Brian? Brian Edwards, out of South Carolina. A guy I was a bit high on, but he is limited by his speed or lack thereof. But he is a good possession receiver, something they really need there in Carolina. And then the Oakland Raiders back on the board, and they get A.J. Dillon, running back or fullback out of Boston College. I don't think he has enough speed to play running back in the NFL. I do like him converting as a fullback, but this is something I could see Mike Mayock doing. Then Dallas Cowboys, they get some depth at linebacker with Kamal Martin out of Minnesota. And with the next pick, Jonah Jackson. Oh, this is a good pick for Minnesota. The transfer from Rutgers, his play has been very, very good. I could see him coming back, though, for another year. But, yeah, no, this guy, he's played very well. And then we have San Fran, Lorenzo Neal, a guy who's been limited by injuries. But San Fran, they need a guy to play the the zero tech there on the defensive line. And I like Lorenzo to do that. And then the Jets, Nate Stanley, how the mighty have fallen. Nate Stanley, man, guy with a ton of upside, doesn't bring it to the table. This was a knock I had on Daniel Jones, but Daniel Jones had immensely more arm talent. But was that he didn't really, it's not like he didn't bring up his team around him. He didn't like when his team was playing bad, he wasn't able to pick them up. Like he is fully dictated by how his players are playing, essentially, if that makes sense. Like his rhythm's quick, like, oh, we can't get the run going, oh crap, man, and like bam, his rhythm, it's all messed up. And it just, he's got all the tools. That's why I'm gonna have him down here. He'd be a good developmental quarterback. Rams, they go Josh Brown, a guy I was asked to check out. I apologize, I don't have your name, but one of the guys in the comments asked me to check him out. And dude, phenomenal run blocker, very athletic too. Oh man, I don't think necessarily I think he fits better in the NFL as a swing tackle. And there's teams that love their swing tackles. Like I have the Rams here. I think he'd be ideal for the Rams or even the Patriots. But I have him right now, 7th round grade. Colts, they go Charlie Heck out of North Carolina. He's a phenomenal pass blocker. And you know what? Get some depth on that offensive line, why don't you? So San Fran, they get a very interesting pick here. They get Jared Rice, tight end out of Fresno State. I think he's more of like an H-back role. Like they could use him in a variety of ways. He's very athletic. So this isn't like a backup for Kittle necessarily, but the guy they could use a variety of different ways. And then Texans, they get Amik Robertson, corner. This guy, he's probably a slot only in the NFL, but this guy's more of a special teams player though. And the Bears, they go Malik Harrison, just trying to get a little depth at the linebacker position. And we go to the Browns. Oh, I love this guy, Jalen Adams out of Southern Miss. This guy has all the speed in the world. He's going to be phenomenal on special teams, but a guy that could probably work into the offense every so often. And then, hey, Patriots, this is their final pick, and they're getting a kicker, baby. Dominique Eberle, man, out of Utah State. Yeah, man, their kicking has not been the same since my boy Steven's been gone. And then the Packers, they go ahead, they snag Jason Strowbridge out of North Carolina. Another guy we could see his name go. We could see this guy actually rise to like maybe a 4th or 5th round pick. But I'm going to hold off until that. And then the Packers got Kalijah Lipscomb, Vanderbilt. That Vanderbilt offense has been terrible. But this guy, I could see him being a good possession receiver. Especially for the Packers, they could use a little more depth there. This guy could come in and Definitely be a guy that moves the sticks. And the Dolphins, they're going Mason Fine. They're going another quarterback. Mason Fine, man. This is a guy I liked his NFL. I liked his arm. I thought he had an NFL arm. He was very good at throwing the deep ball last season. We haven't seen him much this year. He's had a lot of turnover worthy plays. I think at this point he's a good developmental prospect. And, it's not a bad guy to develop behind Tua because it looks like Rosen's time there won't be long. And then Matt Hennessy out of Temple going to the Giants. Good pick here. This is another guy I expect to fly up draft boards. He's been very solid there at center for Temple. And then Mustafa Johnson out of Colorado going to the Seahawks. This is a guy that's been kind of an enigma. The only problem with him is he produces. He has big games, but against poor competition, and he's very quiet when they play those better teams. So kind of a big question mark there, and I've dropped him really far down my list. But that doesn't mean he's a bad talent. This is a guy that can be coachable, probably a good practice squad guy. And then we're getting into the real practice squad territory. Trevin Hill out of Miami. He reminds me a lot of Shane Ray. And the Broncos, they could use some other edge rushers there to develop, as you'll see with a few of my other picks. And then the Seahawks, they get Rico Bachie Jr. This guy, man, he started the year off so hot. He was probably could have been a 4th round pick last season's draft. But unfortunately, he had a really good first game. Then he got kind of shut out the next 2, and then now he's out for the season. That really hurts your stock. It almost makes you undraftable, unless you really produce well at like a combine or Senior Bowl. But I have him here in the 7th round. I think he's a very Seattle Seahawk type of player. I have him in my pass mocks to the Seahawks. And then, Chauncey Rivers, baby, out of Mississippi State. They just keep adding edge. They're gonna add a lot of depth to that defense through this draft, especially I think the edge rush position. And Zach Shackelford going to the Texans. They need to improve on the interior because Howard and Tunzel, they've looked pretty good recently. I know Howard had a rough start to the year, but he's come together. So they add some guys they could probably develop and get that offensive line moving in a really good direction. And Marquez Callaway out of Tennessee going to Minnesota. Another guy you could just maybe develop there. He's got a lot to like about him, but I like to see a little more production. Then the Texans, they go wide receiver again, but this guy's a special teamer. James Porsche out of SMU. I think he's solely going to be a special teams type of player. And the Dolphins, they get another tight end, Grant Calcaterra, how the mighty have fallen. Man, in an offense that's scoring all the points, they are taking all the yards. I don't get why Calcaterra is not producing. That's a big red flag for me. And he's an undersized tight end, so there's that. But hey, he's got playmaking ability. Or at least we saw that the year prior. Hopefully it's still there. But hey, 7th round, you take shots on guys like this. And then William Brady Keene, another guy that be a good practice squad guy, good developmental edge rusher there for Denver. Denver's got another pick, Joe Bachie. I should have brought him up when I was talking about guys with borderline athleticism. I just don't know. He's helped a lot by the scheme. But the Broncos, they can use another guy to develop. I mean, Alexander Johnson's looked really good coming in there. And, so Bachie, not a bad depth play. And then Patrick Taylor Jr. out of Memphis going to the Minnesota. So, I mean, you just add a little more depth at running back. I mean, build for the long haul, am I right? And then, oh, man, Charlie Tamopo. Another fun name to say. But the cat out of Portland State, another one of those D2 prospects that I think probably has a good chance of getting drafted here. And then we got the last, Mr. Irrelevant, Steve Montez out of Colorado, quarterback. Guy, he's got an NFL arm. He just forces the ball downfield. But the production is not there. So you got a question, man. Well, why not? Like, his vision's not all that, like, his decision making's not all that great. But you get another guy there in Minnesota to challenge Charlie Brewer to be the second string. So I don't think it's a bad pick at all. That's it for the video. Hopefully it was informative, and hey, you know what? Now you got a butt ton of guys that you can look into. My voice is about gone. I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but till next time, you be easy, my friends. Later.